A new controversy in America's election headquarters. Although Donald Trump is ahead in the delegate count, he's leading with 743 to Senator Cruz's 545. Governor John Kasich far behind with 143. But Trump is blasting the delegate selection process.
We have a rigged system. So in Colorado, they were going to vote. And you saw what's happened in Colorado. It's one of the big things. It's a fix. Because we thought we were having an election, and a number of months ago, they decided to do it by, you know what, right? Right? They said, we'll do it by delegate. They said they're going to do it by delegate. Oh, isn't that nice? And the delegates were all there, all waiting, and the head guy, in fact, one of them, tweeted out today or said today by mistake, and then they withdrew it, something to the effect, see, never Trump.
Donald has been yelling and screaming. A lot of whining. I'm sure some cursing. And some late-night fevered tweeting. All the characteristics I would note we would want of a commander-in-chief.
Joining us now, Richard Fowler, Democratic strategist and radio talk show host, and Gianno Caldwell, a Republican strategist who also worked on the Romney campaign. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you for having me here.
Richard, to you first. You say that Trump is going to have to put some skin in the game. What do you mean by that? Seems like he's already got skin in this game.
No, he does have skin in the game, but he's going to have to put skin in his ground game. Here's the truth. Donald Trump has the most number of delegates. Donald Trump also has the highest number of voters, right? But he's losing to this backroom rules wheeling and dealing that Ted Cruz is sort of a part of. I like to call the two of them crump together. They're like a new couple, right? but I think there's a larger problem here, right? So Ted Cruz professes to be anti-establishment, but what you see from him every day is exactly what the establishment does. They tinker with the rules, they fudge the numbers, and they do little things to make sure they can stay ahead and the people can stay down. I think Ted Cruz is a walking hypocrisy.
Perhaps that is spoken like a true Democratic strategist, but let me bring in the thoughts of Larry Sabato. He's a neutral player, head of the Center for Politics at the University of Virginia. He says Trump is actually benefiting from the rules thus far. Listen to this.
Overall, Trump has benefited from the rules. He has received 45% of the delegates and has received only a total of 37% of the votes, and that's from an NBC study.
Larry Sabato this morning on America's Newsroom. So he gets 45% of the delegates from 37% of the vote. Gianno, that doesn't sound like he's hurting so badly.
Well, I don't think that he is, and we also must keep in mind is there were 17 candidates in the race, there are currently 3. So those votes were split in between all these different candidates. Now, when we think about things like states like Colorado, which is the only state to not have a caucus, the only state to not have a primary, a lot of people would believe that it's unfair, and I think that plays into the Donald Trump narrative that the system is rigged. But truth be told, to go to Richard's point here, I don't believe that Ted Cruz is being dishonest, if you will. I don't think that there's hypocrisy there. For this reason, Ted Cruz knew back in August 2015 that the rules were changed by the Colorado State Party. So he sent campaign staffers, he sent a number of different individuals there. They campaigned and create a slate of delegates to present to the Colorado convention so he can have people that would support him. Yeah. So I think that statement is intellectually dishonest, Richard.
Oh, come on. You're talking about Colorado, and you can't look at Colorado in a vacuum. What you're seeing happening in state after state after state, Louisiana being one of them, is that Donald Trump won the popular vote. Donald Trump won the larger number of pledged delegates, and what Ted Cruz has done through congressional conventions or state conventions is work the rules to his favor. Now, the problem with working rules to your favor is that you shut out all those people that voted for Donald Trump. And if the Republican Party wants to win in November, they need these voters to come back out again. When you disenfranchise them and suppress them, they won't come back out again. So to say that my comment is intellectually dishonest is ridiculous. Not to mention the fact, so Larry Sabato is right.
It is not.
Donald Trump has benefited from the delegate rule so far. But when we get to the convention, after the first ballot, it will be Ted Cruz benefiting from these from these rules created by state party chairs and party bosses, and that's a problem.
Gianno, part of the Donald Trump campaign, I mean, the core of his campaign is, I'm going to make great deals. I'm a smart businessman. I'm a tough leader, and I'm going to do good deals and therefore good things for America. Well, he didn't master the somewhat arcane rules in places like Colorado, but he'd been in the campaign for 2 months already when Colorado set their rules. Ted Cruz, on the other hand, knew what was going on, sent his people, put them on the ground in Colorado, and came away with all the delegates.
And I think that's a part of him being a good businessman, is the fact that he took a look at the situation and noticed that he was missing something from his campaign operation, which was a pro at getting delegates, and he brought someone new onto his campaign.
Yeah, Paul Manafort.
Paul Manafort that can do exactly that. So at the end of the day, yes, he is a businessman, and you also have to have the right people in place, and I think that's what he assessed, and that's what he pulled into his campaign, so he wouldn't be disenfranchised by the rule changes.
So again, Richard, back to Larry Sabato's point. You said, Sabato has a point. If Trump has received 37% of the vote but has 45% of the delegates, how is that in any way unfair to him?
Well, it's not unfair now. It's unfair when you get to the convention and you get to after the first ballot, where a lot of these individuals, case in point in Virginia, there was a story of a person who was a Cruz supporter who said they were going to run for a Trump delegate, so on the second ballot they could pledge a support to Ted Cruz. What that does is going to shift the ballot, is going to shift the delegate race, and that's part of the problem. That's what the Trump campaign is saying, is that Ted Cruz is sort of messing around with the rules and using the rules for his favor, but for somebody who's supposed to be anti-establishment,
Richard,
you would think,
how could you say that? How could you say that as if he is going in and changing the rules himself? He's operating within the bounds of the rules.
He's actively using party bosses to make sure that he's willing to delegates in these state conventions.
What proof do you have for that?
He's supposed to be anti-establishment. He talks about the Washington cartel, but the only cartel I see is the Ted Cruz cartel. Ted Cruz cartel is all you see here.
What facts do you have to back that up besides your opinion?
I just told you about the story in Virginia. Clearly, you don't read the newspaper.
No, clearly you are giving your opinion and no factual proof to back it up.
I am not. I'm talking to you about a story in Virginia at a Republican congressional convention.
But you did not tell me how Ted Cruz has somehow used the party bosses to change the rules.
I'm not going to repeat this. There's no need to repeat this. I've said this over and over again. What Donald Trump is arguing, and I think it's a factual point, is that Ted Cruz is going in and using maneuvering of the rules and party bosses to make sure that he gets pledged delegates that belong to Donald Trump. That's what he did in Louisiana,
within the bounds
and that's
of the
what
rules.
he's doing in Virginia.
And so is Donald Trump. They're both operating within the bounds of the rules.
We're going to let our viewers decide, but remember, Richard Fowler is coming here as a Democrat. Gianno Caldwell is coming here.
I do believe in openness. One man, one vote. I got to tell you.
Gianno is representing the Republican side. That might enter into this discussion, just for your information. Thank you both, gentlemen. We'll have you back.
Thank you for having me.